Oh, hello, weary traveller. It's me, your old pal, the Shite Guide. I'm taking a little time out from the madness of modern living, and I'm going on a journey to the deep past in Ireland's ancient East. If you'd like to come along with me, we'll dive deep into the ethereal dreamscape of monks, Vikings, and assorted mad bastards of old. We'll go for a relaxing walk and unravel the delicate intricacies of Ireland's first ever Christian site, and find out why St. Patrick is nothing but a lying sack of shite who couldn't drive a snake out of a pet shop's car park. So get comfortable, stick on your Sunday socks, and tell your cold, distant partner that you're having a cup of tea and coming with me to an ancient site beside the sea, to the mystical village of Ardmore. What better place to start than on the beach, where we'll breathe deep the yawning vista of our journey. Far on the horizon is the epic round tower, a steadfast symbol of Ireland standing tall through a millennium of wars and turmoil. A beacon of hope and fear down through the centuries and the final stop on our meanderings. But to get there, we'll have to follow the pagans' trail along the cliffs and ponder the first conversion of the Irish tribes to Christianity by the true patron saint of Ireland, forgotten by history and usurped by that charlatan Patrick in Ireland's oldest case of fake news. So let's ascend the hills and descend the ethereal steps of the past and learn about Saint Declan. Look at that big stone down there. Nice. I love a good stone. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Yeah. Talk about it later. A little respite from the midsummer sun awaits you as you begin the pilgrim's trail down the secluded pathways our ancestors travailed in long-forgotten times. And at the end of this shady way, we come to our first ancient site on our journey, dating from 416 AD, beating St. Patrick's 432 AD, is St. Declan's Well. Cool, huh? Well. At this spot, over 1.5 millennium ago, sleeps the very first site on the island of Ireland where the pagan tribes were converted by Declan to Christianity. Gorgeous. Its waters were used to wash away the sins of the locals, and in doing so, ushered in a new era in the history of the island, which would later become a bastion of the Christian religion and geopolitical power structure. The birthplace of the movement which would later crown Ireland with the title of the Island of Saints and Scholars. And pedos. From a primordial spring gushed forth the waters blessed for eternity by the first Bishop of Ireland, and Declan used it on his new subscribers in a sacred covenant with God, pronouns him, his. To this day they say the water has healing powers, especially for the eyes. I'm not convinced because that shit looks grimy as fuck. Hard pass. Above the well there were 3 crosses, signifying Jesus' crucifixion in Jerusalem, although sadly one of them was stolen by some unknown cunt. Christ! Maybe it was him. Who was that guy? What's he running from? Bastard. It's a strange feeling to know that this lonely, secluded site is ground zero for so much of the troubles on this island. As around the world, evil and cursed men, devoured by the incurable sickness of greed, used some old Iron Age folk tales to justify enslaving nations, extracting wealth and generally acting the bollocks. But you will try to keep it positive anyway. Maybe soon I'll take a trip to Jerusalem itself to explore the birthplace of these shenanigans. And by maybe, I mean I already have, and if you subscribe to the channel, you can follow my journey through Israel and Palestine, just as soon as I find a way to make the videos in a manner which doesn't get me murdered in a car park. But let's keep exploring. Look yonder and witness the altar of this monastery. The preachers would have had a good old dip of the holy water here. Dip, dip. That's where the monks would have kept their super cool shit. Centuries of pilgrims have carved new crosses into these rocks as a form of blessing. Maybe I'll give it a go myself. I'm not sure if this action is me taking part in an age-old tradition, or if I'm literally recording myself vandalizing the priceless cultural heritage of my nation. But I'm overcome with religious fervour and I'm feeling lucky. It's as good a time as any to put this blessing to the test. Scratch, scratch, shite. Scratch, 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 scratch. Damn you and your lies. I'm being harsh. God works in mysterious ways. But enough about me, how are you? Are you feeling relaxed? Did you have a tough day? Did you get that lump checked? Get it checked. Worst case scenario, you can get a prescription to St. Declan's well and you can rub your lumps on the stones here. Oh yeah, the stone. Remember this fella? This is St. Declan's stone. The totally true legend has it that when Decky founded his religion factory, he forgot his bell when he was over on a stag party in Wales. He had entrusted the job of bringing the bell back to Ireland to a lad called Ron Anus, who must have felt like some ghoul when he got back to Ardmore without it. You can't have a monastery without a bell. This was before WhatsApp, when people communicated across long distances with a bell, I think. But no matter, Decky was holy as fuck. And after a quick chat with God, the big fella sent the bell floating across the Irish Sea on this very stone. My favourite part of this story is that it's definitely true. They say the stone has curing properties, and that if you crawl under it on the 24th of July, you'll be cured of all your ailments. I personally reckon that if you can crawl under this yoke, there's probably not a whole lot wrong with you. Physically, at least. Let's get back to the cliff and see what else is to be found along the Pilgrim's Way. We still have a couple of miles to journey to get to the Round Tower and the resting place of Declan, and there's other history to explore along the way. And Christ! There he is again, the thief. Has he no shame? Interestingly, the cross to the left of Jesus held a fella called Gestas, the unrepentant thief. I fear something strange is afoot, but we must prevail. Sometimes I like to imagine how our forebearers would have hidden in these hills from Viking attacks. Those hairy, sexy bastards whose lust for gold would eventually bring them here in search of gold, followed later by the dastardly Brits. It's amazing that anything survives of the site at all. For centuries, the locals would gaze out to the sea, awaiting the next armada of bastards. But hark, gaze yonder, and behold the rusty remains of a much newer ship, the Samson, which crashed into the cliff in 1987 on its way from Liverpool to Malta. Malta is renowned for one of the oldest St. Patrick's Day celebrations on earth. so I suspect the spirit of St. Declan took his chance to fuck shit up and claim the ship as his own. The way is blocked. A snail. Hello, old friend. Will you grant us safe passage? Thank you. Up ahead we have a lookout post, which the Samson could probably have used, but by sheer coincidence, on the very night the vessel crashed, this lookout had been abandoned for 70 years. It was built during World War Season 2, and I suspect many a can was drank here by lonely soldiers waiting for the Nazis or the British invasion that never happened. Damn you all. Behind it, there's an even older lookout tower. This one built during the Napoleonic Wars in case of a French invasion. Can you bowsies not just quit it with the invasions, please, and just leave us alone to chill out with our holy wells and our holy stones? Thanks so much. Let's have a look inside. Yeah, it's pretty fucked. How nice is this? On this site, local knowledge has it that many a boyfriend has taken photos for his girlfriend's Instagram right here. Sacred ground. Atlante, siempre adelante, on we go. Again, the way is blocked. But I'm craftier than our enemies. Now we come to a rather peculiar situation. A lonely and serene cliffside wank booth with a well underneath it to wash yourself off. According to local tradition, this is Father Donald's well, and it stands apparently on the site of a prehistoric pagan site. But this was built by a fella called Rahali, who brought the stones from the beach and created this curious wonder. The savage winds from the sea have yet to best his efforts, and it stands strong to this day. Rahali wrote, "The tourist as well as the pilgrim, who add to the patron's role, imbibe a sweet spell of enchantment, as well as some balm for the soul." Lovely stuff altogether. But dusk is descending on us and my camera is shite. So we'll make haste to the final and most impressive sight on our journey, the Round Tower and the final resting place of St. Declan. The way is blocked again, friends. The dark forces will not rest, and neither will I. While we're on the way, I'll tell you a little bit more about Declan and Patrick, and why Paddy gets the title of the first lad to wet our heads. The old Diocese of Ireland were as corrupted by power as any man who ever lived, and many of them vied to be the primary caretakers of the faith in Ireland, thus extending their local power further. While St. Declan was the first missionary of the Christian faith, St. Patrick was claimed by the Diocese of Armagh, and with them being the bigger and more powerful diocese, there was never really a chance for humble old Ardmore to claim the seat of the home of Christianity in Ireland. Plus, he had the whole shamrock thing going on, which is pretty cool. Hard to compete with the shamrock. I'm a lifelong fan of the underdog, so St. Patrick can go and do one, and if Armagh want to fight, I'll be here, waiting, wanking on the cliffside. But pilgrim, cast thine disbelieving eyes yonder, breathe deep and behold the jewel and the crown of this wonderful town. The Round Tower and the site of Declan's monastery. The well may have been the first site of baptisms, but this land is where the monastery compound was based. An ancient site that has seen the rise and fall of many structures, each taking us down through the centuries. The Round Tower, Ireland's unique gift to world architecture, casts a spell on all who gaze upon it. If you want a deeper lesson on round towers, you could check out my video on the monastic settlement of Glendalough to hear tales of how the monks would take their valuables inside in case of marauding Viking attacks. The entrance is 4 meters above the ground, and I left my grappling hooks at home, so this view will have to suffice. 900 years old. It's one of many buildings on this continuously occupied land. These graves hold the souls of more than a millennium, but now only the last few centuries are visible. We'll never know how many people are interned here, mainly because you'd want to be some awful weird bollocks to go digging around a graveyard. But a little mystery never hurt anyone, right? We can only grab at thin slivers of past knowledge. And we can take solace today knowing that our great vast data centers of collected human knowledge will all vanish into digital dust when the Earth is again inevitably hit by a solar flare which will wipe our hard drives bare and will leave future societies wondering what the fuck was wrong with us. The cycle continues. The vast darkness will devour us all. And I think that's lovely. Onto the monastery, where we still view ancient wisdom. This wall is 300 years older than the surrounding building and still preaches its gospel in stone. In an age where the peasants were illiterate, pictures told stories, and here we can learn about Adam and Eve, the 3 wise men, and my personal favourite, the Judgment of Solomon, where 2 women came to him claiming to own the same baby, and so the king offered to cut it in half to please them both. The Bible's great, isn't it? Who's that fella there? Some young fella playing the harp for some reason. Fair play to him. Let's go inside and get holy. Imagine the centuries of faithful gathering here through the ages to hear about how being poor was actually great because then you got to go to heaven. Class. Monasteries were like the internet of the time, but without the fact-checking. Maybe Twitter is a better comparison. Monasteries were centres of learning, and people would come from far and wide across the country and the continent to learn at these centres, and then would spread their knowledge and the gospel far and wide. Jesus, what is that? Is that a feckin' bone? Probably shouldn't have touched that. Ooh, check these out. This is an Ogham stone, with an early form of Irish writing along the sides with different lines signifying different letters. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I imagine. Pretty cool indeed. And they have a cool name too, Ogham Stone. Oh, good shit. Oh, and there's another one over here. How many thousands of sermons were held here, teaching on the site founded by Declan? Before the sun goes down, let's go pay our last respects to the man himself. St. Declan's Oratory, cited as the resting place of the lad himself. It's hundreds of years older than the other buildings here, and it would have been built on his gravesite. Let's peer through. I'm not sure if the bars are trying to keep us out or to keep someone in, but I'm glad they're there. That hole in the middle is where he was buried, but centuries of pilgrims taking handfuls of soil from it have now completely emptied the grave, so there's nothing to stop the man from rising out from the depths and running amok in the town. So I guess the bars are a good idea. Rest easy, kid. Before I go, one little last factoid about the tower, among the very last built in Ireland. There are no historical sources proving it ever withstood a Viking attack, but it did withstand an attack, for a bit. In 1642, we have eyewitness accounts of an attack by the eternal bastard Oliver Cromwell, whose savage ethnic cleansing of Ireland killed up to 25% of the island. A garrison of several hundred natives and a couple hundred foreigners were holding out in a long demolished castle and the round tower here when Cromwell began his siege. Those inside the tower didn't have enough muskets to defeat the Brits, and so a deal was struck for mercy. Cromwell would end the siege if the lads surrendered, and he would spare their lives. So they did. Out from the tower, hundreds of men climbed. Cromwell divided the English and the native Irish, and in true Cromwell fashion, he hanged 117 of the Irish defenders in the fields around the tower, staying true to his cuntish impulses. Saint Declan sadly slept through the whole thing. So as the sun goes down on this surely haunted site, I'm heading off to the village for a pint. And maybe I'll see you again soon for another shite guide. Godspeed to you all.